All right, we got Alfo Media. This is part 2 of the video I checked out last week, which I don't think I posted that video. So I probably just posted it before this one. I don't know, but we're talking about musicians and their stage names. Part 1 was great. I didn't know most of those. So let's see who we got in part 2.
In this video, you will be learning about the origins of all of these musicians' stage names.
Okay.
From legends to up-and-comers to bands to solo acts, from aliases and personas that are completely different from their real names to people just using their real names, and so on.
Really?
This is part 2 of
I definitely know some more in here based off of the names that I saw there. There's a lot of these I know.
Video I did last week with the first half of the alphabet of this random list that I made, so feel free to check that out after if you haven't seen it yet. But first,
Yeah, that
I
was
want to
good.
thank today's sponsor,
W-Ad, man.
to an event.
W-Ad, bro.
Stacy for $20.
Love to see it, my brother.
So game time today, last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. I accidentally skipped Kid Cudi last time.
Cutter.
So Scott Cudi started out rapping as Lil Scott as an homage to Lil Wayne, but then he wanted something more personal, so he changed it to Kid Mesk, which was never gonna work. So
Yeah.
it became Kid Cudi instead. Melissa
Hard.
Vivian Jefferson grew up with the nickname Lissa, and when she started a female rap group at the age of 14, Lissa combined with the Jay-Z song Izzo to become
Oh,
Lizzo.
wow.
This is another
Okay.
crazy, real, iconic name example to me, like Beyonce last
Madonna's her name?
Madonna's birth name was Madonna Louise.
Yo, that's hard.
Comstock, aka Marshmallow, is very secretive of his identity and
Yep.
hasn't given much of an explanation of why he chose the s'mores ingredient as his whole persona. I'm assuming it was inspired by deadmau5's whole shtick.
Had to be.
The mask is a very recognizable, marketable piece of branding.
Yep.
Marvin Pence Gay Jr. used his
Hard.
real first and last name, although he added an E to the end of his stage name. Sadly, he would be shot and killed at the age of 44 by the man that he shared a name with, his father, Marvin
R.I.P.,
Pence.
bro.
Lars Ulrich's friend.
Hate to see it. I just learned that happened. I want to say earlier this year or late last year. I literally didn't know that. Honestly, I thought he overdosed. I thought that's how he died. But when I heard that, I was like, yikes, bro. Man was just trying to break up a fight between his parents, bro. Hate to see R.I.P.
Was making a zine and said that the name was either going to be Metal Mania or Metallica. Lars told him
I feel like Metal Mania would have been a sick festival for them. Like if it was like how it is now, where every artist has their own festival. If Metallica did the festival back in the day, Metal Mania would have been the sickest name.
that he should go with the prior for the zine because he wanted to use the latter as a name for his band. The Queen of Pop used her real name, and the King of Pop used his too.
Yep.
Michael Joseph Jackson. Destiny Hope Cyrus was a
Yeah. Didn't they change it to Miley for the show?
so her parents would call her Smiley, which eventually became Smiley Miley.
Yeah.
When she was a teenager, she legally changed her name to Miley Cyrus. Mumford and
Crazy.
Sons came from frontman Marcus Mumford taking his last name and adding that suffix to give the sense that it was, quote, an antiquated family business. NWA's name, blank with attitude, is pretty self-explanatory for
Yeah.
the statement that they were making to the world. The guys were committed to being bold and portraying a sense of rebellion within their music. They were unabashedly authentic and anti-commercial, which is just a small
In your face.
part of what made them so influential. Folk legend Neil Young was born Neil Young, but we've
Nice.
got a fun middle name here, folks. Drum roll, please. First of all, when Kurt Cobain and Chris Novoselic
okay.
were in high school, they started out with some interesting band names. Kurt's original project was called Fecal Matter, then the two became The Sellouts, which was a
Okay.
CCR tribute band, and they continued on with names like Skid Row,
Wow.
Hap Chew, and Ted Ed Fred, but eventually they got sick of coming up with these on-the-nose, obnoxious punk rock names and
Fair.
decided on something beautiful, Nirvana, the final goal of Buddhism. The legendary Christopher Wallace went by more than a few nicknames. Biggie was one that he had from childhood, simply because he was always physically large. Biggie Smalls became a spin-off of that, which was the name of a gang leader in the 1975 movie Let's Do It Again. And finally, once he broke into the industry, he wanted something more official, so he became the Notorious B.I.G., which stood for Business Instead of Game. The Gallagher brothers...
Oh, I didn't know that part. That's hard.
Band name from a tour poster that Noel had hung up in their bedroom. Inspiral Carpets had played a show at the Oasis Leisure Center in Swindon, and the rest was history.
Wow.
3000 and Big Boy wanted to call their group Two Shades Deep or Misfits. They learned that both names were already taken.
Yikes.
So they looked up Misfit in the dictionary and picked Outcast, which meant the same thing. Brendan Urie and Panic at the Disco got their name from the underground emo band Name Taken and their song Panic. There's a line in there that says, Panic at the Disco sat back and took it so slow. Sir Paul McCartney decided not to go with that weird first name, and no, I'm just kidding. It was a little joke. What would be the American version of the whole Sir and Dame thing, by the way? But yeah,
I don't even know.
His name was actually James Paul McCartney. There was once a band named after NBA player.
Imagine he just went by like Jimmy McCartney. I feel like that wouldn't sound as official as Paul McCartney does.
Blaylock, but once they signed a record deal, they thought, hey, we should probably get a name that isn't just an athlete that we like. So one of the guys suggested Pearl. The band had gone to a Neil Young show and kept talking about how every song was a
Neil
jam.
Percival Young.
And that's it. Pearl Jam.
Sick, dude.
Better would tell reporters that it was an ode to his grandma Pearl. She would make, but that was just nonsense.
WCAT.
Bridgers is Phoebe Lucille Bridgers.
Hard.
Named on the spot by
Honestly, bro, I feel like I only got into Phoebe Bridgers because she had such a cool name. Like, I didn't even know she was in Boy Genius until earlier this year. None of that. I just heard her name so much. And then she was on the Kid Cudi album, Man on the Moon 3. And I was like, hold on, she hard too? Kind of been into her since. I haven't really gotten too deep into her music yet. I definitely need to, but
the jam that she would make,
that's hard that that's her name.
That was just nonsense.
That's sick.
Phoebe Bridgers is Phoebe Lucille Bridgers. Pink Floyd was named on the spot by Syd Barrett in reference to some of his favorite blues musicians, Hank Anderson and Floyd Council.
Nice.
The ranks of Beyonce and Madonna for names that were bound to make you a superstar. The artist formerly known as That Love Symbol was born Prince Rogers.
Hard, dude.
Chose the band name Queen because he wanted something regal, larger than life, and quote, it sounds splendid. Radiohead got their name from a Talking Heads song of the same name, though it had a space in the middle. Fun fact,
that's wild.
Of Talking Heads naming that song originally goes back to a character in Groundhog Day. Arguably the most common backstory across...
I love butterfly effects like that, bro. That's so wild.
The origin of Talking Heads naming that song originally goes back to a character in Groundhog Day. Arguably the most common backstory across these two videos is dropping your last name and just using your first and middle instead. Here, that's the case for Ray Charles Robinson.
Wow.
Anthony Kiedis and Red Hot Chili Peppers got their title from a nickname of the 1920s jazz quintet, Louis Armstrong with his Hot Five.
I always wondered
there were a bunch of
how they got this name.
That did this hot, red hot fire motif, so they doubled down on that concept. Again, with middle name supremacy, Robin Fenty might be the new leader in this field.
Knew this one.
Santana is a band and not just a guy. It is.
I thought it was just a guy.
Their frontman, guitar extraordinaire Carlos Santana. Selena Gomez was born Selena Marie Gomez.
Nice.
But it's no big surprise who she's named after.
Oh yeah,
the late great Selena. Two more in a row of real names with little or uninteresting backstory. backstories, shout out to Sean Peter Raul Mendez.
Nice.
Lucia Kate Isabel Furman.
Wow, see his name? That's hard.
John Moore claims that
I did not know that his name was Sonny Moore until this year.
Felix is just a dumb old AOL screen name that doesn't have any meaning. Some fans have assumed that it came from the first-person shooter UT99 and the character Skrillex. Now for people named Steve
Interesting.
were actually named variations of it instead. Stephanie Lynn Nix, Stevie Nicks, and Steve Hardaway Morris.
Wow.
Yes, Steve Lind got his name.
That's crazy.
He was a piano prodigy, and Motown called him Little Stevie Wonder. Unlike Santana,
Kevin Parker.
Just one guy.
One guy.
Kevin Parker got the band's name from the animal, and the adjective is there as some kind of play on nature versus civilization. This is the part of the video when I learned that his parents are from Zimbabwe and South Africa.
Oh, wow.
His dad was the CFO of a gold mine.
Wow.
Interesting.
That is interesting.
Taylor Allison Swift, and
I hate that I knew that. I actually hate that I knew her full name.
Much Taylor for letting me use you in the thumbnail to get more views. My fun fact for her is that she was named after James Taylor, and also her dad has the Knights of the Round Table sounding name of Scott Kingsley Swift.
Oh, that's a hard name. That's a hard. Shout out to Taylor Swift's dad. That's fire.
Several explanations for this one. This is what seems to be the #1 contender. In the 1953 Marlon Brando crime movie The Wild One, there's a gang called the Beatles, like the insect. Stu Sutcliffe, the original bassist for the group, suggested that as their name, but John Lennon was the one that came up with the beat spelling pun because they were a beat band. Alex and
Makes sense.
the Chainsmokers haven't said much about the origin of their name, besides the fact that Alex used to smoke weed, and they also took inspiration from Hugh Grant's character in 2002's About a Boy. First co-founded Easy Cure, a band named after a song that he had written of the same name.
Okay.
When there was a replacement of members early on, Robert Smith wanted a name change as well. He thought Easy Cure sounded too American, and he wanted to add "the" to the front of it.
Fair.
The Easy Cure was too wordy.
Yeah.
The Cure. The Rolling Stones
like that.
were named after a Muddy Waters song called A Rolling Stone, which ultimately comes from the old proverb, a rolling stone gathers no moss. Abel Tesfaye chose his stage
So
name.
then they named the magazine after the band, right? I'm not entirely. I think so. I always imagined that they did. I'm pretty sure they did.
Thinking about when he dropped out of school
And that's funny too, to go from the Rolling Stones to the Weeknd. That's funny.
left one weekend and never came home.
Yep.
The change in spelling
Knew that
was
one.
to avoid copyright problems with a band called The Weeknd.
That's crazy.
Petty, but there's not a whole lot of backstory.
Yo, I love the surge in Tom Petty streams because of the GTA 6 trailer, bro. Amazing.
On why the band was called the Heartbreakers. People generally talk about this group of guys to be extremely normal and level-headed. The Heartbreakers does sound like a plain person's idea of a cool band name. John Herman Webster II wanted
himself after Cuddy
to be representative of his two heroes.
and his uncle
Travis and Scott Mescudi, who we discussed at the beginning of the video. 21 Pilots got their name from the 1947 Arthur Miller play All My Sons. In the story, the protagonist has to choose between losing money by not selling faulty plane parts or sell the parts to help his family and hope for the best. He sells the parts, and guess how many pilots die because of that decision. U2 got
That's
their name
crazy.
after they asked a friend to come up with a list of potential band names. Bono and the rest of the guys hated this name the least and chose it because it sounded futuristic to them. Ezra
guess.
Koenig named his band while at Columbia University. He was making a short film about vampires attacking the United States, Vampire Weekend, and while they stopped working on the movie, he kept working on music. Two great real names in a row, Whitney Elizabeth and Willie Hugh
tough.
given first and last names.
That's tough right there.
Jabril Thomas, however, did not. He shortened wisdom to become Wiz, and took the Arabic word for successor, Khalifa. XXXTentacion said that his name means unknown temptation because X can stand for something that you don't know yet, and Tentacion is temptation in Latin, but I think he meant Spanish, not Latin.
Yeah,
this is one
he did
of
mean
my
Spanish.
favorite stories yet that makes total sense, but I never saw it.
Of course I knew that one.
Way. The Yeah Yeah Yeahs named their band after living in New York for a while and hearing people say, yeah, 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 meaning like, yeah, right. And finally, to complete parts 1 and 2 of these videos, Billy Gibbons wanted to name his band after his 2 heroes, ZZ Hill and ZZ King didn't sound quite right, so he thought a king is the person at the top, so ZZ Top. Thank you for watching.
Sick, dude.
I plan on releasing some kind of favorite music of 2023 video in a couple of weeks, along with some news about the future of the channel.
Okay.
I'll see you then. Hey, thank you for watching.
Hey man, W video, bro.
Channel. Feel free to like, comment,
subscribe. I have not caught a Twitch stream in a while, bro, but I was in there one time. It was on Fall Guys. It was a vibe.
Social media at RenshawHS.
It was a vibe, man.
Merch, support me on Patreon or Twitch.
W video.
Thank you again. I'll see you soon.
Most of these, I feel like I did know compared to part 1, but obviously there were some that I didn't. Pretty cool, man. Honestly, I never really. Okay, like there's certain artists where like I wonder where they get their name from. Like, you know, obviously we all know the Future story. He was in the basement, you know what I'm saying? And it was like he the future of rap or future of music or whatever. So you just call himself Future. You know, stuff like that. Young Thug, truly humble under God. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. But other than that, you know, I'm not really too interested in, at least I haven't been that interested in figuring out the origins of a lot of people's names, especially bands. I feel like with bands, I kind of just always, you know, chances are there is no real meaning, but with a lot of them, there actually is, which is pretty cool. So this was a cool video, man. Not gonna lie.